He found him drowning in blood that looked black under the sodium lights, clutching 3 infant carriers like a fortress around his dying body. The man's eyes glowed crimson in the darkness, and when he raised the gun, his hand didn't shake. The freezing December rain had been hammering Detroit's industrial sector for 6 hours straight. The kind of bone-deep cold that turned puddles to ice and made every breath visible. Ricky Santos watched the windshield wipers struggle against the sleet, his exhalation fogging the cracked glass of his delivery van. The dashboard clock glowed 11:47 p.m. He'd been on the road since 6 that morning, hospital lab work until 2, then straight into the delivery grind. He'd started pre-med 3 years ago before dropping out when the money dried up. First his father to cancer, then his mother to grief 6 months later. Then his sister, Jacinda, vanishing without a trace. In the end, it was easier to stop trying than to keep failing. His lower back throbbed from the morning shift hunched over microscope slides. His stomach had been empty since the protein bar he'd eaten in his van at noon, saving the other half for tomorrow. The app pinged. "You have arrived. Deliver to loading dock. Rear entrance. $200 tip." Ricky's chest tightened with something close to disbelief. That tip meant he could pay his electric bill before they shut it off. It meant he could buy actual groceries, not just ramen and day-old bread. It meant maybe, just maybe, he could breathe for 1 goddamn week. He grabbed the insulated bag from the passenger seat, premium order from Matsuhisa. The receipt showed a $350 tab for omakase that some corporate executive probably wouldn't even finish. The kind of meal that cost more than Ricky's rent. Rickey killed the engine. The silence felt wrong immediately. The warehouse door hung open 6 inches, security chain dangling loose like a broken promise. Ricky's breath caught. Premium tip orders didn't come to places like this. Abandoned pharmaceutical factories with shattered windows and gang tags spray-painted over faded corporate logos. He should leave, drive away, report the address as incorrect. Then he heard it. A baby crying. No. 3 babies, their screams overlapping in a chorus of terror and hunger. Ricky's hand was on the door before his brain caught up. His pre-med training, dormant for 3 years, roared to life with a single word: distress. He shoved through the entrance. The smell hit him first, copper and something else. Sulfur, maybe, or burning plastic. His delivery bag slipped from numb fingers. The sushi containers split open across concrete already painted with darker spills. Bodies. 4 of them. Torn apart with a violence that didn't match any weapon Ricky knew. Flesh opened in ragged strips. Bones visible through meat. One man's head twisted completely backward, his spine a spiral of shattered vertebrae. At the center of the carnage sat a man in an expensive suit. Back, against a steel support beam. 3 infant carriers formed a triangle around him. His white shirt was more red than white now. Holes punched through his chest and abdomen, weeping blood that seemed too dark, too thick. Intricate tattoos covered his neck and hands, symbols Ricky had seen in news reports about Detroit's most feared syndicate. The one people whispered about in hospitals when gang violence victims came through. The one with rumors attached that nobody quite believed. The man's eyes snapped open. They glowed. Actually glowed. Crimson light in the darkness like brake lights in fog. Ricky's legs locked. The man raised a gun with a hand that should have been too weak to lift anything. His aim didn't waver. "You weren't supposed to see this." His voice came out liquid, drowning. "They used you. Hacked your app. Made you a witness." I don't..." Ricky's voice cracked. "You need a hospital." "No hospitals." The gun stayed steady. "They'll kill me there. Kill my children." His head tilted toward the carriers where the babies screamed themselves hoarse. "Please, I'm begging you. Save my children." Ricky looked at the wounds. Silver bullets, maybe. The edges of the holes were cauterized, smoking faintly like someone had pressed hot metal against the flesh. Impossible. Everything about this was impossible. The glowing eyes, the strength it took to keep that gun raised, the way the blood moved wrong, sluggish and viscous. "What are you?" Rickey whispered. The man's laugh came out wet. "Dying. That's what I am. But they're innocent." His hand shook finely, gun dipping. "Please. You're pre-med. I can smell the formaldehyde on your clothes from the lab. You know how to help." Rickey looked at the babies, looked at the monster, looked at the massacre. He made his choice. My van. Now. Rickey's studio apartment had never felt smaller. Davorin took up the entire futon, his frame too long, too broad, radiating a cold that made the air itself feel thinner. The babies, Angelica, Abel, Thorin, he'd learned their names during the frantic drive, slept finally in a nest of blankets on the floor, their breathing too quiet, too controlled for infants barely 3 months old. Rickey set down 2 mugs of coffee. His hands still shook from digging bullets out of supernatural flesh. "You said someone hacked my delivery app. The Covenant is old." Davorin sat up slowly, his wounds already closing within speed that made Rickey's medical training scream in protest. "Older than your country. Older than most of your cities. We protect humans. We feed, yes, but with consent, with compensation. We live in shadow so you can live in light." "We." Rickey forced the word out. "Vampires." "The Vampire King, specifically." Davorin's smile held no humor. "Though my crown seems to be contested at the moment." Rickey laughed, sharp and bitter. "Right. And I'm the Pope." Davorin extended his hand. The tattoos covering his knuckles shifted, symbols rearranging themselves like living things. "These marks contain access codes to every vault, every blood archive, every treaty signed in the last 8 centuries. Encrypted in my flesh, worth more than your mind can calculate. So someone wants them? Someone wants me dead and my children leverage." Davorin's jaw tightened. "Thorin isn't mine biologically. He's my second-in-command's son. Gadiel died protecting me 3 months ago. I adopted his child. Promised I'd raise him as my own bloodline." Rickey looked at the sleeping infants. In the lamplight he could see it now, the way their skin held a porcelain quality, too perfect. The way their fingernails looked sharper than they should. What happens to vampire babies without protection? They die. Or worse, they're turned into weapons. Raised without the Covenant. Without honor. Davorin stood, moving to the window. "Someone's been tracking us since the warehouse. I can feel them." Rickey joined him, peering through the blinds at the empty street below. "I went to the bodega for formula. There was a woman. She looked at me too long." "Describe her." 30s, dark coat. She was standing near the security mirror, but... Rickey's breath caught. She had no reflection. Davorin's hand shot out, gripping Rickey's shoulder. His fingers were ice through the thin fabric of Rickey's shirt. "They know you helped me. They know you're here. Then we leave." "Where?" Davorin turned, and his eyes caught the light wrong, that crimson glow bleeding through. "Every safe house I have is compromised. Every ally I trust is being watched." Rickey looked at his apartment, his shitty futon, his peeling linoleum, his life that barely qualified as living. Then he looked at the babies. "Then we stay invisible." Behind them, the bathroom mirror exploded. Standing in the shower, dripping and smiling, was a woman with reflectionless eyes and silver knives in both hands. The woman moved like water, like something that had forgotten what it meant to be solid. Rickey barely registered Davorin shoving him sideways before silver flashed through the space where his throat had been. "Get the children!" Davorin's voice carried command that bypassed thought. Rickey scrambled across the floor, gathering carriers, his pre-med training screaming about proper infant handling even as his survival instinct screamed louder. The bathroom exploded into violence. Devorin caught the woman's wrist, twisted, but she flowed around the hold like smoke. Silver Blade opened his chest in a line that hissed and smoked. He didn't scream. Just drove his fist through her ribcage with a wet crunch that would haunt Rickey's dreams. She laughed with a punctured lung and dissipated into mist. Wraith touched. Devorin staggered, clutching the silver wound. Old magic. Expensive magic. Someone spent fortunes on that assassin. Rickey grabbed the diaper bag with shaking hands, shoving in formula, bottles, anything within reach. We need to go. Now. They're surrounding the building. Devorin's eyes unfocused, seeing something beyond normal sight. 3 more signatures, maybe 4. The babies started crying, all 3 at once, their wails sharp enough to split glass. Thorin's eyes flashed crimson. Abel's fingers elongated into tiny claws. Angelica's mouth opened too wide, revealing gums that held the promise of fangs. They're hungry, Rickey said, understanding flooding through panic. When did they last feed? This morning, but the formula... Devorin's expression twisted. Check it. Rickey grabbed the bottle he'd prepared an hour ago, the one still sitting on the kitchenette counter. He held it to the light. The liquid moved wrong, metallic sheen catching the lamplight. Colloidal silver. His voice went flat. Someone poisoned it. If I'd fed them, they'd be dead within minutes. Devorin tried to stand, collapsed against the futon. I can't protect you like this. The silver in my system. Then I protect you. Rickey's hand steadied as he set down the poisoned bottle. His medical training clicked into place like armor. I need rubbing alcohol, clean tubing, and your first aid kit. Now. If you're watching from somewhere in this world tonight, leave a comment below and let me know where you are. And if you want to see how Rickey saves them, hit subscribe, because what comes next gets dark, and you won't want to miss a second. 20 minutes later, Rickey had an improvised blood filtration system running from his arm to Abel's tiny body. The baby had seized first, his vampire metabolism trying to burn through the silver faster. Rickey's plasma, filtered through tubing he'd MacGyvered from aquarium supplies and medical knowledge, flowed clear and clean. Your blood has properties. Devorin watched with something close to awe. It's neutralizing the silver. That shouldn't be possible. Dhampir bloodline, Rickey said, not knowing why he knew the word. My grandmother's stories about our family being cursed. Maybe not so crazy after all. Abel's breathing stabilized. Then Angelica's. Then Thorin's. Rickey saved all 3 while his own vision grayed at the edges from blood loss. They ran. Detroit's skyline blurred past in streaks of neon and sodium light as Devorin carried the babies, and Rickey drove his rattling van through streets he barely recognized. The GPS was useless. Devorin kept calling out turns based on senses Rickey didn't have, tracking their pursuers through methods that defied explanation. Left here. Now. Rickey yanked the wheel. The van fishtailed on ice, clipped a fire hydrant, kept moving. In the rearview mirror, headlights multiplied. 3 cars. No, 4. They're hurting us. Devorin's voice stayed eerily calm. Pushing us toward the old automotive district. Why? Because it's empty. Because nobody will hear you scream. The van's engine coughed, sputtered. The check engine light had been on, for 6 months, but Rickey had never had the money to fix it. Now it was going to kill them. Can't you do something supernatural? Rickey's hands ached from gripping the wheel. Vampire speed? Mind control? Silver's still in my system. I'm half mortal right now. Devorin looked down at the sleeping babies. I can fight, but I can't run and protect them both. The engine died on an overpass above an abandoned factory complex. Below, rusted machinery sprawled like the skeleton of some industrial giant. The cars behind them stopped, headlights creating a wall of blinding white. Rickey counted shadows. 8. maybe 10. They moved with that same liquid grace as the woman in his bathroom. Out. Devoran's command left no room for debate. Get the babies to the factory floor. There's a loading dock on the east side, heavy steel doors. Barricade yourselves in. What about you? Devoran's smile was all teeth and old hunger. I'm going to remind them why humans invented religion. They split at the bottom of the access stairs. Rickey ran with 3 carriers, his arms burning, his lungs screaming. Behind him, the sound started. Wet impacts, screams that didn't sound human, the crunch of bones breaking in ways bones shouldn't break. The loading dock appeared through the darkness. Rickey slammed against it, fumbled with the lock. Rusted. Frozen. He looked around desperately and found a length of pipe near an overflowing dumpster. The first vampire hunter found him as he smashed the lock. She was young, college-aged, with reflectionless eyes and a UV grenade in her hand. The babies don't have to die. Just step aside. Rickey swung the pipe. It connected with her skull with a hollow ring. She staggered, more surprised than hurt. Rickey swung again. And again. His pre-med knowledge mapping exactly where to hit. Temple, orbital bone, base of the skull. Not to kill, to incapacitate. She went down. Rickey dragged the carriers through the door, slammed it shut, wedged the pipe through the handles. His hands were shaking. There was blood on his shirt. Not his. He'd just beaten someone unconscious with a pipe. The door shuddered. Something massive hit it from the outside. Then Devoran's voice, rough and close. "It's me. Let me in." Rickey opened the door to a nightmare. Devoran was covered in blood, his suit shredded, his eyes pure crimson. He held something silver and dripping. "We need to leave, now." St. Michael's Church had been condemned for 3 years. The Gothic structure sagged like a penitent's shoulders, its stained glass windows either shattered or boarded over. But the walls were stone, the basement was deep, and most importantly, it was consecrated ground. Holy ground doesn't stop vampires. Devoran lowered the carriers gently onto a pew. That's a myth. But it does weaken certain kinds of magic, makes tracking harder. Rickey collapsed beside him, his legs finally giving out. His delivery uniform was destroyed. Blood, glass, substances he didn't want to identify. His cheap sneakers had holes in them. He'd lost his phone somewhere in the factory. "How many did you kill?" 6. 3 escaped. Devoran peeled off his ruined suit jacket. Beneath, his chest was a map of half-healed wounds, silver burns that still smoked faintly. "They'll report back. Regroup. Come at us differently. We can't keep running forever." "No." Devoran looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. "You should leave. Take what money I have. Disappear. Change your name. You saved my children. That debt is paid. You owe me nothing." Rickey laughed, the sound echoing wrong in the abandoned church. "I beat someone unconscious with a pipe tonight. I'm pretty sure I'm past the point of walking away." "You're still human." "Am I?" Rickey held up his hand. In the moonlight filtering through broken windows, he could see it. The faint tracery of veins glowing beneath his skin, still processing vampire blood from the filtration. "Your blood is in me. The baby's blood is in me. I can feel things I shouldn't feel. Hear things I shouldn't hear." Devoran moved closer. The temperature dropped. "That will fade. In a day, maybe 2. I don't want it to fade." The words hung between them like confession. Rickey met Devoran's eyes, saw the surprise there, the hunger barely contained. They were inches apart now. Close enough that Rickey could see the inhuman architecture of Devoran's face. Too perfect, too symmetrical, like something carved from marble and given the memory of warmth. "You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking to matter." Rickey's voice cracked. "For 3 years I've been invisible. a ghost going through motions. Tonight I felt alive for the first time since my parents died. So no, I'm not leaving. Devorin's hand came up, fingers tracing the line of Ricky's jaw. Ice and stone and something older than memory. If you stay, there's no going back. They'll hunt you, change you, break you. Then we break them first. The kiss happened in the space between heartbeats. Devorin's mouth was cold, tasting of copper and something darker. Something that made Ricky's newly awakened senses sing. When they pulled apart, Ricky's lip was bleeding. Devorin's eyes were pure crimson. The confessional door opened. Phaedra stepped out, immaculate in a white suit, smiling like a saint. How touching. The king finds love in his final hours. She held a silver knife in each hand. Hello, husband. Miss me? Phaedra moved like choreographed death, her white suit somehow spotless despite materializing from shadows. She was beautiful the way porcelain dolls were beautiful, perfect and hollow and wrong. You died. Devorin's voice carried centuries of betrayal. I watched you burn. You watched a proxy burn. Phaedra circled them, her silver knives catching moonlight. A willing sacrifice. A loyalist who believed the old ways were worth dying for. She laughed, the sound like breaking glass. I've been dead for 6 months, beloved. It's been liberating. Rickey positioned himself between Phaedra and the babies. His hand found the blessed silver candlestick he'd grabbed from the altar, heavy, solid, real. The covenant is dying, Devorin. Phaedra stopped circling. We're starving on scraps and consent while humans multiply like bacteria. Orion sees it. Half the council sees it. We weren't meant to hide in shadows begging for permission to exist. We weren't meant to be monsters. We are monsters. Her eyes flashed crimson. Pretending otherwise doesn't change our nature, it just makes us weak. She gestured at Rickey. Case in point, the great vampire king, brought low by compassion for a delivery driver with Dhampir blood he doesn't even know how to use. The codes, Rickey said, understanding flooding through. You need the vault access. That's why you kept him alive at the warehouse. You need him conscious to extract them. Smart boy. Phaedra's smile widened. The codes die with him unless transferred willingly. Ancient magic. Irritating magic. But Orion has ways of making cooperation seem appealing. Devorin's hand shot out, gripping Rickey's wrist. When I move, you run. Take the children. Don't look back. No. The word was still forming when Phaedra struck. She closed the distance in a blur, silver knife driving toward Devorin's heart. He caught her wrist, twisted, but she was fresh, strong, undamaged by silver. Her second blade opened his shoulder. Rickey swung the candlestick. It caught Phaedra across the temple with a sound like a bell tolling. She staggered, more shocked than hurt, and Rickey pressed the advantage. He drove the blessed silver against her throat, felt it sizzle against her skin. She screamed, a sound that shattered the remaining stained glass and dissolved into mist. The mist reformed 10 feet away. Phaedra's perfect face held a burn mark now, the flesh blackened and weeping. You'll pay for that, human. Get in line. Rickey's hands didn't shake anymore. Devorin grabbed her from behind, his strength returning in desperation. They crashed through pews in a tangle of supernatural violence. Rickey scooped up the carriers, running for the basement stairs. Behind him, Phaedra's voice rose above the chaos. The formula wasn't the only thing I poisoned, beloved. Check Abel. Check him now. Rickey's blood turned to ice. He set down the carriers, pulled back Abel's blanket. The baby's skin was gray. His breathing shallow. And there, on his tiny forearm, a silver injection mark, fresh and weeping. The abandoned veterinary clinic still had electricity, somehow. Emergency lighting flickered on when Rickey kicked through the back door, revealing examination tables and expired medication and the tools he needed to save a dying vampire infant. Abel was seizing. His tiny body convulsed in Ricky's arms, skin going from gray to ash, his fingernails blackening. Angelica and Thorin screamed in their carriers, sensing their brother's distress with whatever supernatural bond connected them. Silver nitrate solution. Davrin kicked open supply cabinets with methodical violence. Concentrated in his bloodstream, she injected him during the church fight. I didn't even see it happen. We need to flush his system. Rickey laid Abel on the examination table, his pre-med training warring with supernatural biology. But his veins are too small for dialysis and we don't have the equipment. Use mine. Phaedra spoke from the doorway. Her hands were zip-tied behind her back, courtesy of Devorin's brutal efficiency. The burn on her face had healed partially, leaving a silver scar. My blood is compatible. First-generation vampire. It'll neutralize the silver faster than anything else. Why would you help? Ricky's voice was acid. Because I'm not a monster. Phaedra stepped forward, and Rickey saw it then, the grief in her immortal eyes. I wanted the codes, wanted to change the covenant, wanted to survive. But I never wanted the children dead. They're innocent. Davrin grabbed her by the throat, lifting her off the ground. You poisoned him. Orion poisoned him. In the church. I was the distraction. Phaedra didn't struggle. I didn't know until after. He acted without my approval. That's when I realized. He doesn't want to change the covenant. He wants to destroy it. Wants open hunting. Human cattle. She met Davorin's eyes. I was a fool. But I won't let babies die for my mistakes. Abel's breathing stopped. Rickey didn't think. He grabbed a scalpel, opened Phaedra's wrist, and ran a transfusion line directly into Abel's femoral artery. Ancient blood flowed into infant veins. The baby convulsed once, twice, and gasped. Color returned to his skin like dawn breaking. His eyes snapped open, crimson and aware. He grabbed Ricky's finger with impossible strength and didn't let go. He'll live. Phaedra sagged against the examination table, her face pale from blood loss. But Orion knows you're here, knows you'll go to the council meeting tomorrow. He's planning something, an ambush at the warehouse where this all started. Full circle, Rickey muttered. Poetic, isn't it? Phaedra's smile was bitter. The great vampire king, brought down where he was meant to die the first time. Davrin's phone buzzed. He answered, listened, and his expression went flat. That was Drevin. The blood hunt on Rickey is official. Every vampire in 3 states has authorization to kill on sight. He looked at Rickey. We have 12 hours until the council convenes. Then we have 12 hours to end this. Rickey kissed Abel's tiny forehead, feeling the baby's temperature normalize. Outside, headlights multiplied in the darkness. They'd been found again. Jacinda stepped through the clinic's shattered window like she'd been invited. She wore tactical black, her dark hair pulled back tight. And her eyes. God, her eyes were the same brown Rickey remembered from childhood, except now they reflected nothing in the fluorescent light. Hey, little brother. Her voice was exactly the same. Exactly. Like 3 years hadn't passed. Like she hadn't disappeared without a trace. Like she wasn't dead. You look like shit. Ricky's world tilted. The scalpel fell from his hand, clattered on linoleum. Cinda? Surprise? She vaulted over an examination table with inhuman grace. Though I'm guessing the family reunion isn't what you hoped for, considering I'm here to kill your boyfriend. Davrin moved between them, but Jacinda was faster. She had a wooden stake pressed against his chest before Rickey could blink. Don't. I'm already breaking protocol by talking first. When? Ricky's voice cracked. How? 3 years ago. Wrong place, wrong time. Orion found me bleeding out after a car accident, offered me a choice. Die human or live forever. Jacinda's jaw tightened. I chose wrong, and then he owned me, blood debt. I've been his hunter ever since. You could have come home. To what? Mom killed herself, Rickey. Dad was already dead. You were drowning in debt and grief. What was I supposed to do, show up as a monster and make it worse? Tears tracked down her face, and Rickey realized vampires could cry after all. I've been watching you for 3 years. Every shitty apartment, every double shift. Every night you went to bed hungry because you were saving money for a degree you'd never finish. Then why are you here now? Because Orion gave me an ultimatum. Bring him Devoran's heart, or he'll kill you himself. Slowly. He knows you matter to me. He's using you as leverage. Phaedra laughed from her corner. The sound broke in. He's using everyone as leverage. That's his gift. Finding what you love and weaponizing it. Rickey stepped forward, putting himself between Jacinda and Devoran. You're not going to kill him. Rickey. You're not. His voice steadied. Because you just spent 3 years watching over me from the shadows. Because you cried at Mom's funeral when you thought no one was looking. Because you're still my sister, and I know you. The stake trembled in Jacinda's hand. Then the wall exploded. Orion entered through the debris like an avenging angel, beautiful and terrible, with silver hair and eyes like frozen blood. He had 6 vampires with him, all armed, all hungry. How touching. The lost sister, the broken king, the foolish human. You're all exactly where I need you. He smiled at Jacinda. Kill them, now. Or I'll make your brother watch while I drain him drop by drop over 3 days. Jacinda looked at Rickey, at the babies, at Devoran. She drove the stake through Orion's chest. No. Orion staggered, surprised, and Jacinda shoved Rickey toward the back exit. Run, I'll hold them. Get to the council, tell them everything. Cinda, I love you, little brother. I'm sorry I left you. She smiled through tears. Don't waste what I'm giving you. Silver stakes erupted through her chest from behind, 3 of them, driven by Orion's vampires. Jacinda collapsed. The warehouse looked exactly the same. Bloodstains darker now, bodies removed. But the ghost of violence lingered like smoke. Rickey stood where he'd found Devoran dying 3 days ago. 3 days that felt like 3 lifetimes. Elise had the babies safe in a hotel across town, paid for with what remained of Devoran's emergency cash. Angelica, Abel, Thorin, innocent and perfect, and worth every impossible choice Rickey had made. The Vampire Council sat in a semicircle of folding chairs that somehow radiated ancient authority. 12 vampires, 11 of whom looked at Rickey like he was contamination. Elder Vlad presided from the center, 8 centuries old, his face a map of controlled hunger. A human. Vlad's voice carried the weight of empires. You bring a human to our council, Devoran. After everything that's happened. I bring the man who saved my children, the man who exposed Phaedra and Orion's conspiracy, the man who deserves to live. Devoran's hand found Rickey's. Their fingers interlaced. And the man I choose as my consort. The chamber erupted. Vampires shouting in languages Rickey didn't speak. Phaedra stood against the far wall in silver chains, her testimony already given. She'd named every conspirator, every safe house, every plan. Her eyes met Rickey's with something close to respect. This violates the covenant. A female vampire, Belladonna, Rickey remembered, rose from her seat. Humans are protected, not elevated. We cannot have one of them ruling beside our king. Why not? Rickey's voice cut through the chaos. He stepped forward, away from Devoran's protection. You've spent centuries hiding in shadows, pretending you don't exist, feeding on scraps and consent while vampires like Orion starve and plot rebellion. Your covenant is dying because it's built on separation, on pretending we're not connected. Careful, human. Vlad's eyes glowed. You speak to powers that have ended civilizations. Then end me. Rickey spread his arms. But first, listen. I've got Dhampir blood. Didn't even know until 3 days ago. I've saved your king's life twice. I've neutralized silver poisoning that should have killed 3 vampire infants. I've fought beside you, bled beside you. He looked at each council member in turn. I'm not asking for your throne. I'm asking for partnership, human representation in your councils, transparency between species, a new covenant built on cooperation, not coexistence. And if we refuse, Belladonna's voice dripped venom. Then you'll face civil war. Devorin stepped beside Rickey. Orion's faction isn't isolated, it's spreading. Vampires are starving because humans have evolved. They know what to look for, how to protect themselves. The old ways aren't sustainable. We adapt, or we die. Orion's voice echoed from the entrance. Or we take what's ours. He entered with 20 vampires at his back, rogues, outcasts, the starving and desperate. The stake wound in his chest was bandaged but healing. The council is obsolete. The covenant is chains. I'm offering freedom, human cattle, open hunting, the power we were meant to wield. Davorin moved faster than thought. 3 vampires died before Rickey registered motion. Silver stakes, wooden stakes, pure brutal efficiency. Phaedra broke her chains with a sound like thunder and joined him, redemption written in violence. The warehouse became a war zone. Rickey grabbed a silver knife from a fallen vampire and fought. His Dhampir blood sang with borrowed strength. He wasn't helpless, wasn't prey. He was something new, something the vampire world had never seen. When Orion lunged for the baby's location on Rickey's phone, Davorin drove a stake through his spine. Then his heart. Then his skull. New rule, Davorin said into the sudden silence. The human stays. Vlad stood slowly. Blood spattered his ancient suit. He looked at the bodies, at Rickey standing firm, at Davorin radiating absolute authority. The covenant evolves. Vlad extended his hand to Rickey. Welcome to the council, King Consort. May you bring us the change we're too old to imagine. 3 months later, Rickey stood on the penthouse balcony overlooking Detroit. The triplets played inside, Angelica giggling, Abel and Thorin wrestling with vampire-safe toys. Davorin emerged from the council meeting, exhaustion and satisfaction warring on his face. How'd it go? Human liaison protocols approved. 3 cities implementing the pilot program. Davorin wrapped his arms around Rickey from behind. You were right. Partnership works better than separation. Rickey leaned back into the embrace, into the cold that no longer frightened him. He'd accepted the partial blood bond, enough immortality to match Davorin's lifespan, enough humanity to bridge both worlds. Tomorrow he'd teach his first class at the University of Michigan, Supernatural Medicine 101. Any regrets? Davorin's lips brushed his ear. Not one. Rickey turned, kissed him properly. I delivered life instead of sushi, found a kingdom in the process. Inside, the babies called for them. Outside, Detroit glittered with possibility. And Rickey Santos, former delivery driver, former ghost, current king consort, was finally, impossibly, home. If this story grabbed you, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you thought. Drop where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you want more tales of the impossible becoming real, more monsters finding their humanity, more ordinary people discovering their extraordinary, stick around, because this is just the beginning, and trust me, you won't want to miss what comes next.